By the way, if people,
Sorry.
I'm true. Are we saying Rosh Hashanah or we're
In Moed Katan, Yud. Sorry, Perek Aleph Mishna Yud.
Moed Katan? Aleph Yud. We may build a railing for a roof or for a balcony in an unskilled manner, but not in a professional manner. We may replaster cracks and roll them off as if with a roller, with a hand and foot, but not with a trowel. A hinge or a socket or a beam or a lock or a key that broke may be repaired during Kol HaMoed, provided that one does not plan his work for Kol HaMoed. All pickled foods that can be eaten during the festival may be pickled during Kol HaMoed. One who turned over his olives to soften them, and then mourning befell him, or an accident befell him, or his workers misled him, may place the first beam and leave it until after the festival. This is the opinion of Reb Yehuda. Reb Yossi says he may pour the olives into the press, complete the process, and seal the barrels in his usual fashion. And similarly, one whose wine was in a vat, and then mourning befell him, or an accident befell him, or his workers misled him, may pour the wine into barrels, complete its processing, and seal the barrels in his usual manner. And that's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda says he may cover the barrels with boards so that the wine is not sour.
Okay. So the Mishnah Gimel follows on in this manner of what you can do on the Moed to protect yourself from a loss. Machnis adam perosav mipnei ganavim. So a person can bring his produce inside. So he's got a whole bunch of produce out in the fields, and he's afraid that things are going to get stolen. So he's allowed to bring them in. Okay, and it's not considered, even though it's a lot of effort to bring it in. Nonetheless, it's a davar aved, and therefore he can bring it in so it doesn't get stolen. Shole pishtano min hamishra. And he's also allowed to remove his flax from soaking. Okay, so in order that it shouldn't spoil, because if it stays too long, then it'll spoil. So he can also do that. As long as he does not intend to leave the malacha for Kol HaMoed and say, that's when I'll have time, so I'll do it then. Okay, we spoke about that before. But if a person actually did make this cheshbon and decide that he's going to do his malacha and Kol HaMoed because that's when it'll be convenient, and then he asks a shaila about it, we say, sorry, mate, this is what, if you plan for it, then you have to let it take the loss. Okay, Daled, ein lokin batim avadim u behema ela letorech hamoed or letorech hamocher. So you have so in terms of doing trade, like purchasing houses or things that these are things that are not for ochel nefesh. Okay, it's you're adding to your property, you're trading, making money, buying property. The only reason why you would be allowed to purchase these things would be if it's for a need that you're allowed to do on Kol HaMoed, if it's something that you actually have some purpose to do on Kol HaMoed, with you need to hire get a slave to come and do some work, cook for you on Kol HaMoed. Okay, all tzorech hamocher, if the seller is hard up for money and he's selling off his assets so that he's got something to buy, then there's a heter for the buyer, even though he doesn't need these things for the moed, but the seller he's helping out by giving him some cash. Okay, so now he'll have something to eat. Ein mefanin mi bayis lebayis, aval mefanu lechatzero. So in terms of taking stuff out of the house, taking either kalim or produce. That's if they're not like in the same chatzer. If they're in the same chatzer, then that's okay. But again, it's one of those things that Chazal said, because of the trouble involved in schlepping stuff from house to house. Therefore, don't do it. But you can move your stuff out into your chatzer. So if you need to, so that's not considered a big tircha. Ein mavin kalim mi beisa uman. You also can't go and fetch kalim that you took to the workman before the chag to have it fixed. So let's say clothing. You took it to a tailor, seamstress, and they finished the work, and now you want to go and collect it during Chol Moed. So actually, you're not allowed to bring them back from the craftsman on Chol Moed. So some explain the reason is because of the tircha, and others explain that it's because of chashad. That in other words, maris ayin, that people see you going to the tailor and saying, "Oh, you gave him to the tailor to fix on Chol Moed. This is that's not right." So to me, it seems like the second one is a little bit more yoshav. It seems like a more reasonable thing, because I mean, how much of a bother is it to go to the tailor anyway and fetch your clothing?
The wild animals coming after you?
Those are called Hadida ibises. They're the loudest birds in the world.
Sounds like wild beasts coming.
They're these huge birds about this big.
Really?
And they make a massive noise.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the official name is the glossy ibis. They've got these huge curved beaks that they use to root in the ground to find bugs, and that's actually the biggest use. We've got these insects. There used to be a total plague of them in Johannesburg called Parktown prawns. And these like king crickets, these gigantic crickets that they weren't dangerous or anything, but they were just gross.
Like the things we get like every 7 years or something like that. What are they called? The
cicadas.
Excuse me?
Cicadas.
Oh, that's it. Well, they come like, I think every 6 or 7 years they come out of the ground or something like that.
No, the Parktown prawns were prolific. They were all over the place, and they used to. And I once had the unpleasant experience of putting on a shirt with a Parktown prawn inside it. Yeah. So the Hadidahs eat the Parktown prawns, and they've actually kept the population under control. When the population started multiplying here a couple of decades ago.
Wow. All right.
Anyways, so that's a little nature digression over here. We said okay. So back on the fetching your clothes from the tailor, you can't do it unless if he's concerned that they're going to be lost, that somebody's going to steal it from the tailor. Okay, then he's allowed to put them. Then he's allowed to take them out and put them into a place that is guarded, but he can't bring them home because again, you don't want people suspecting you that you've been taking your stuff to the tailor. So he's allowed to take that effort to protect them, but he can't bring them home. Okay. Mishna hey mechapin esa katzios bakash. So you're allowed to. So katzios, that's basically figs that are laid out on the mat to dry. So you're allowed to cover them in straw during Chol Moed in case it's going to rain, so that the rain doesn't spoil them. Okay, again, davar ha'aved. Rabbi Yehuda omer af ma'abin, and Rabbi Yehuda says you can even put them, you can stack them on top of each other. In order make them into a pile, so that the top ones will protect the bottom ones. Okay, so he permits that in order to save the produce. Interesting, Rabbi Yehuda is the one who's more machmir in the previous Mishnah that we just learned about what you can do in the case of a loss. But in this case, he seems to be more makel. Mochre peros ksus kalim. So the merchants who sell fruits and clothing and other needs, things that are needed for Chol Moed, mochrim betzina letzorech moed. You're allowed to keep your shop open, but quietly. Not it shouldn't be like a big splash and saying "Mivtza anak," boom, boom, boom. So telling us about what they've got on sale. They're open, available for people to buy what they need on Chol Moed. So you'll find that during Chol Moed, this is interesting. I guess it's an application of this halakha that, for example, Best Market on Chol Moed is open until like 12 or 1 o'clock or something like it, and then they close. Right. So So they're open enough time for people who need to go and buy stuff, and then that's it. They're done. Okay. At Sayadin, so the trappers, people who are catching animals for either for food or for hides or whatever it is that they need. But dashoshos are people who winnow, right? Dashing is winnowing.
He calls it cereal makers.
Cereal makers. Garosos are cereal makers, I think. What you've got three.
I have three. Trappers, cereal makers, and bean pounders.
And bean pounders. Oh, okay, fine. So they're all people who do stuff that could be legit on Chol Moed. Or sin betzina l'torech hamoed. Again, they're allowed to do their stuff, but quietly. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Heim hefmir al atzman. So Rabbi Yossi says that these particular merchants, these particular professionals, they took on the minhag to be machmir on themselves, not to do any malacha on themselves, not to do any of this malacha. So while the halacha was that they could have done it betzina, but he says they actually decided to be machmir on themselves because they wanted to give more cover to the chag. Okay. Megillah Gimel Hay.
Megillah.
Yeah.
On Pesach, we read the portion of the festivals in Leviticus. On Shavuos, we read the portion of the 7 weeks. On Rosh Hashanah, we read the portion of in the 7th month on the first day. Or on Yom Kippur, we read the portion of after the death. And on the first day of the festival, we read the portion of the festivals in Leviticus. And on all the remaining days of the festival, we read the portion of sacrifices in the festival. Of the festival. On the 8th day of Hanukkah, we read portions of the princes. Purim, we read the portion of Amalek and Amalekam. On Rosh Chodesh, we read the portion of on your new moons. On Mamados, we read the portion of creations. In public fast, we read the portion of the blessings and curses. We may not interrupt the reading of the curses, therefore one person reads them in their entirety. On Monday, Thursdays, and at Mincha on Shabbos, we read the regular order of portions, but this reading is not taken into account. As it is said, and Moses declared the appointed seasons of Hashem to the children of Israel, the precept is that each portion should be read at the appropriate time. I got up this morning, I must have been in a daze because I said to myself, oh my gosh, we have slickos today.
Slickos. Not quite.
Where did that come from? I couldn't think. Sometimes I wake up and I think it's Shabbos. I do. Did that happen to you?
Well, it's better than waking up on Shabbos and thinking it's Chol.
Right, it's true. But so I said, Shabbos, oh my gosh, don't take your watch, leave your phone,
Yeah.
A couple of minutes, I get it. One who reads the Megillah may stand or sit. When whether one person read or two read, they have fulfilled their obligation. Where there are custom recite a blessing afterward, one should recite the blessing. Where the custom is not to recite a blessing, one need not recite the blessing. On Monday and Thursday on Shabbos afternoon, 3 people read the Torah. We may not decrease nor add to them, and we do not conclude the reading with a section from the Nevi'im. The one who commences and the one who concludes the reading of the Torah respectively recite the blessings said before and after it. Okay.
Okay. Right, Rosh Hashanah.
Okay. Okay. Aleph. There are 4 New Year days. On the 1st of Nisan is the New Year for the reckoning of the Jewish kings and for establishing the order of the holidays. On the 1st day of Elul is the New Year for the tithe of animals. Reb Elazar and Reb Shimon say it is on the 1st of Tishrei. The 1st of Tishrei is the New Year for reckoning the years, for the sabbatical years, for the Jubilee years, for the planting of trees, and for the vegetables. On the 1st of Shvat is a new year for the tree, according to the words of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says on the 15th thereof. At 4 junctures of the year, the world is judged on Pesach for the grain, on Shavuos for the fruit of the tree, on Rosh Hashanah, all who walk before the earth pass before him like young sheep. As it is said, who fashions all their hearts together, who understands all their deeds, and on the festival they are judged for water. For 6 months, the messengers go forth. For Nisan, because of Pesach. For Av, because of the fast. For Elul, because of Rosh Hashanah. For Tishrei, because of the proper determination of the holidays. For Kislev, because of Hanukkah. For Adar, because of Purim. And when the temple was in existence, they went forth also for Iyar, because of the minor Pesach. Okay.
Psachim Daled Hey.
Where is it customary to do work on the 9th of Av? We may do it. Where it is customary not to do work, we may not do it. But in all places, scholars are idle. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says a man should always adopt the behavior of a scholar. But the Katan say in the Judea, they used to do work on the eve of Pesach until midday, while in the Galilee, they did no work at all. As for the night, Beis Shammai forbid work, when Beis Hillel permit until sunrise. Reb Meir says any work which one began before the 14th, he may finish on the 14th, but he may not begin it initially on the 14th, if and if he can finish it before midday. But the Katan say practitioners of 3 crafts may work on the eve of Pesach until midday. They're tailors, barbers, and launderers. Reb Yossi ben Yehuda says also shoemakers. We may set up coops for chickens on the 14th. If a brooding hen escaped, we may return her to her place. If she died, we may set another in its stead. We may sweep away from under the animal's feet on the 14th, but on the festival, we only clear it away to the sides of the stall. We may take utensils in and bring them back from the house of the craftsman, even though they are not needed for the festival. Okay.
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 I am
Daled Aleph. The carabit in a vineyard. Beis Shammai says 24 cubits, but Beis Hillel says 16 cubits. The machol of a vineyard, Beis Shammai says 16 amas, but Beis Hillel says 20 amas. What is the karach?
12 amas.
Excuse me?
Beis Shammai says 16 and Beis Hillel say 12.
I'm sorry. Okay, I said the other way.
Yeah.
Beis Shammai says
you said 20
amas.
instead of 12.
I said 20? All right.
Yeah.
But Beis Hillel says 12 amas. What is a karachat of a vineyard? A vineyard that has become bare in the middle. If it is less than 16 amas, one may not sow seeds there. If it is 16 amas, it is given the tillage space, and one may sow the rest. What is the machol of the vineyard? Between the vineyard and the fence. If there is not 12 amas there, they may not bring seeds there. If there were 12 amas there, it is given tillage space, and they may sow the rest. Rabbi Yehuda says this is merely a fence of a vineyard. And what is the machol of a vineyard? Between 2 vineyards. What is a fence? That which is 10 tefachim high, and a ditch, that which is 10 deep and 4 wide.
Okay, Kalim Tisvav Hey.
The shovel of bean grinders is tameh, but the shovel in using a storehouse is tahor. The shovel of a wine press is tameh, but that of the threshing floor is tahor. This is the general rule. Utensils that are designed to hold something are tameh, but those designed for gathering are tahor. So we had this question yesterday in my shiur, Rabbi Myers. It wasn't really a question, I brought it up. He was talking about on Shabbos scraping out like the bottom of a pot or something like that. You had challah, do you want to get the bottom, how we couldn't do that and all that. And I said, but if it was applicable in this day, and this Mount Zed, then wouldn't that spoon, it's a base kibble, wouldn't it be tameh then? It could become tameh.
Sure, a spoon could be it could become tameh.
Right, but the fork, maybe not. I wasn't sure about the fork.
If the fork is metal, it doesn't need to have a base kibble.
But the spoon is metal also.
Okay, so it doesn't need a base kibble either. It's metal kalim don't specifically need a base kibble.
Okay, all right. That's all I wanted to check with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Music. He didn't hear me say that. I meant if it was applicable in this time. He said,
So
"No,
why
it's not."
I missed. Why can't you scrape out the bottom of the cholent?
Because something about if you're stirring up the bottom, like if you take it like on a Friday night, if you want to take the cholent off, and I really want some cholent, I want to taste it, and you start scraping the bottom, you start stirring it up, then you can do something with the heating, you're heating it up and the bishul and that.
I wouldn't even allow you to touch it on Friday nights. You're supposed to leave it for the day.
I know he was saying that if you really had this urge, I mean,
you take something off the top, but then how do you recover it?
But he was saying that you take it off, you have to hold it, take it off because you're going to put it back, and you have to put something on the black, like a piece of aluminum foil or something. So you cover what's there, and then you
so
take off what
there's a
you want,
derech to do it.
put it back.
Okay,
Right.
I'm not gonna try that one.
I said for some reason when I go to sleep on Friday night, I'm not in the mood for cholent at that point. You know, you don't look like you are either.
But the best thing about challenge is waking up Shabbos morning and smelling it.
Smelling it, right. Then I remember the morning I didn't smell anything, and I said, "Oh my gosh, don't tell me the timer went off." So, so all right. Musical liars are tummy, but the liars of the Levites are tahor. All liquids are tummy, but the liquids of the butchering place are tahor. And all scrolls contaminate their hands, except the scroll of the temple courtyard. All a theater horse is tahor, and as for a sitar, a niktamen, and a tambourine, those are tummy. Rabbi Yehuda says a tambourine is susceptible to the tumor of the seat because the woman wailer sits on it. A weasel trap is tummy, but the mouse trap is tahor. Okay, and that is finished.
No, well, one more.
That was. Wait a second.
No, in Perek Tes.
Don't go away. I have to get my
Another volume.
another volume. Brian Olive. Any wooden utensil that broke into two parts is tahor except for a folding table, a variety platter, and a folding bench of a householder. Rabbi Yehuda says also the Magis and the Babylonian code are the same as they. At what point do wooden utensils become susceptible to contracting tumor? A bed and a cradle becomes tummy when one smooths them with the skin of a fish. If we decided not to smooth them, they are tummy right away. Reb Meir says a bed becomes tummy from when one weaves three bottom into it. Okay, we have one more? No.
Yeah, okay, no, that's it for Kalim. Then Sanhedrin, hey.
Right. I wouldn't want to sleep on a bed if it was the skin of a fish that. Okay, here we go. Hey. If they find a reason to acquit him, they acquit him. If not, they postpone his verdict until the next day. Then they pair off, limiting their consumption of food and abstaining from wine the entire day, and analyze the matter through the night. On the following morning, they arise early and come to court. The one who argued for acquittal declares, I have argued for acquittal and I maintain my position in favor of acquittal. The one who argues for conviction says, I argued for conviction and I maintain my position in favor of conviction. One who argues for conviction may argue for acquittal. The one who argues for acquittal may not reverse himself and argue for conviction. If 36 votes for acquittal and 35 votes for conviction.
Wait, I think you may have skipped something.
Yes. If they erred, the two judicial scribes remind them. If they find an argument to acquit him, they acquit him. If not, they take a vote. If 12 votes for acquittal and 11 votes for conviction, he is acquitted. If 12 votes for conviction and 11 for acquittal, or even 11 votes for acquittal and 11 for conviction, and one says, I do not know, or even 22 vote for acquittal and conviction, and one says, I do not know, then they add judges. Up to how many judges do they add? 2 by 2 until they reach 71. If 36 votes for acquittal and 35 votes for conviction, he is acquitted. If 36 votes for a conviction and 35 for acquittal, they debate each other until one of those voting for conviction agrees with the opinion of those voting for acquittal. Once the case has been decided, they take him outside to stone him. The stoning place outside the court area, as it is stated, take out the blasphemer. One man stands at the courthouse door with flags in his hand, and another man stands astride a horse at a distance from him within his sight. If someone says, I have grounds for his acquittal, that one waves the flag and the horse runs and halts him. Even if he says, I have grounds for my own acquittal, they return him even 4 or 5 times as long as there is a substance in his words. If they found an argument for his acquittal, they acquit him. If not, he goes out to be stoned. A proclamation goes out before him. So and so, the son of so-and-so is going out to be stoned because he transgressed such and such a prohibition, and so and so and so and so are his witnesses. Whoever knows any grounds for his acquittal should come forward and present them.
Right, and this is the small window of opportunity that they've got to get Eidim Zomamim. it has to have been after the din has been paskened and before they get executed. So during that time, they extend it and they go in their machris and say, this is what happened and here are the witnesses, so that if anyone says, hey, those witnesses couldn't have seen it because they were with us at the time, then they can quickly come to Beis Din and say, this is what we've got.
When he was approximately 10 cubits from the stoning place, they say to him, confess. That is the practice of those who are executed to confess, because anyone who confesses has a share in the world to come. For so we find concerning Achan, and Yeshua said to him, my son, please give honor to God of Israel and render confession to him. And Achan answered Yeshua and said, I have sinned, thus have I done. From where do I know that his confession brought him atonement? Because it says, and Yeshua said, why have you troubled us? Hashem shall trouble you on this day. And on this day you are troubled, but you will not be troubled in the world to come. If he does not know how to confess, they say to him, say, let my death be an atonement for all my sins. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he knows that he is the victim of a plot, he should say, let my death be an atonement for all those sins except for this one. They said to him, if so, everyone will say that in order to clear himself. Okay.
So you don't. So even if somebody knows that they've been framed, they still have to accept the din as a kapara, and they can't make any bitter statements at the end saying everything except this because I didn't do it. So that undermines the whole justice system to do that. Anyway, that's
whenever we read these things about being stoned or being killed, they always sound so like, all right, so they're going to kill me. What am I going to do about it? It's not this picture of people going to the, hangman or something and screaming, I didn't do it, don't do, it's always like, okay, I'm going, so that's it, what can I do?
There was a, I think it was brought about Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach. There was a case where he was on a Beis Din or what, I think, and there were Eidim Zovamim who conspired against his son. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he could have sat on the Beis Din because a judge a relative can't be a judge in the case. But the Eidim Zovamim did a good job, and they had him, and they succeeded in pronouncing a death penalty on Shimon ben Shetach's son. And then afterwards, the witness, in between the execution, the din and the execution, the witnesses came to Shimon ben Shatach and said, "Just thought you should know, we're Eidim Zomamim. Just wanted to tell you that, because they were just like rubbing his face in it." And he was looking, and he was trying to find some way to, according to the story, he was trying to find some way to get his son off the hook. And his son heard this, and on the way to execution, his son said, "Don't pervert justice. I've been found. Unless you can find, unless there's no legal way for you to do this. Kevin Shehigid, the witnesses have testified they can't go and backtrack on their testimony. The law is that I have to be executed. So carry it out." And that's according to the story, that's what happened.
That's strange. That's really.
Yeah.
I thought at the end that there was they says there's one witness who can come and confess. But all right.
No, the witnesses themselves can't implicate themselves. A couple of things. Kevin Shekid, you can't retract your testimony once it's been given. Second thing is Ein Adam Mesim Adam Atzmo Rasha. A person can't testify against himself to make himself into a Rasha. He can testify on himself that he owes money, but if a person comes and says, I admit I did malacha on Shabbos, we don't hear him. We can't. He can't testify against himself.
He needs two witnesses.
That's correct.
Okay. So when my wife tells me I did this, I said, "Where are the witnesses? Where are okay. Have a great day. Enjoy, and Mr. Shem will go the same way tomorrow. It's Rosh Chodesh. You got pretty early. So
it was an early minion today. It's also a very slow minion.
Okay. All right. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.